Hi there, it's Sam Davis here with samsphotogallery.com, and today we're going to be talking about super zooms. So what are super zooms? Well, they are lenses which have a very long zoom range, so normally from a very wide angle to a super telephoto. I use the Olympus 14 to 150 millimeter lens, and that has an equivalent full frame zoom range of 28 to 300 millimeters, so pretty broad really. And you may think, oh, that's amazing, that can do everything. As we'll find out, they can't quite do everything, or they can do everything, but sometimes not very well. So let's dive in and take a look at super zooms and whether you should get one. So on a point and shoot camera, the equivalent of this super zoom, the 14 to 150 millimeter, would be 10.7 times zoom. So pretty big really. Some point and shoot cameras do have quite a bigger range, some of them are like 40 times, 50 times. But the point is with this super zoom, it's an interchangeable lens, and with this one it will retain the image quality pretty much throughout the zoom range. Normally they're a bit softer at each end, so maybe a little bit soft completely wide and maybe a bit soft for full telephoto. So let's just talk a bit more about the Olympus 14 to 150 itself, and it's a really compact zoom. When we are collapsed, it's only about 8.4 centimeters long. That's excluding the lens hood. It's 6.4 centimeters wide, weighs 255 grams. It fits on really nicely to these small Olympus bodies or OM system bodies, and they are really just amazing for travel photography. Basically, that's where these lenses are at home at most. Traveling around the world, where you just don't want to carry really any kit at all. You don't even want a camera bag. You just want your camera, a charger, and a lens, and that's what you want it for. Most importantly for travel, this lens, the 14 to 150, is dust proof and splash proof, and I've never had any problems with dust getting onto the sensor on this camera at all. So this is the EM5 Mark II, which also has really good weather sealing, as well as the EM5 Mark III and the latest OM5 as well. And I've never had any problems with dust getting onto these sensors at all. I've never had to clean one, whereas other cameras of other brands, I'm having to clean it like every time I take it out, it seems. So it's really worth bearing that in mind when looking for a camera to buy. So when we fully extend this lens, how big does it go? Well, it goes from this size all the way up to that size, double the length basically, so we're looking at probably 16 centimeters or so there. They're not really very heavy again at all, so you don't have any balance issues when you extend the lens out that far. Okay, so the question is, one lens that can do everything. Is it too good to be true? Well, let's talk about what this lens can do to start with. So the shorter focal length, it can do beautiful landscapes. The colours are great. It's a little bit soft in the corners. Okay, that's inherent with a lot of zoom lenses. Also, we can do wide-angle portraiture. The f-stop, lowest f-stop is f4 at a wide angle, and it's really good with that wide angle as well for doing architecture and street photography as well. So really great when you're traveling around cities abroad or temples, anything like that. It's really quite fantastic. Where it will struggle is in low light situations. Again, that f-stop starts at f4 going up to 5.6 at the long end. So if you're looking to do things like astrophotography, specific low light situations, this isn't going to be a great lens for you. You're going to want to buy something more specialist with a much lower f-stop, much wider, and you let a lot more light in and get some good astrophotography images. You could give it a try, but I really, wouldn't waste your time really. But we can always remember you can do long exposures with a lower ISO, okay, handheld or on a tripod. So if you're walking around a very dimly lit National Trust property or a castle or something like that, you can handheld with the image stabilization on these cameras in particular for a good couple of seconds and get some amazing images at really low ISO and just let all that light in. So again, the super zoom, even though it starts at f4, you do have that kind of balance there just to match that up. So as we start to extend that focal length, we go into the 35mm, the 50 and the 85mm equivalent focal ranges. We can go from group shots, family group shots, we can do people in couples themselves or just headshots as well, all the way up to the long end. And also at the long end of the lens, we've also got obviously wildlife. We've got a 300mm equivalent lens there, so we can get some great wildlife shots, and also telemacro. So I'll talk about that in a moment and give you some tips on how to get a good telemacro shot. And portraiture again, so really nice, get some good background blur on those headshots. So if this lens does almost everything, why do I need anything else? Well, it's difficult to isolate subjects in enclosed spaces. For this I recommend having a small prime lens. So if you don't have much distance between your subject and then the wall behind, this doesn't have the f-stop to get that really nice background blur. So I recommend using a small prime lens if you've got one. For the Olympus system, I always take traveling the super zoom and this lens here. It's a 45mm f1.8 prime lens. It weighs absolutely nothing and it just fits in my top pocket. It doesn't advertise itself as having amazing weather sealing or anything, but again, I've never had any problem with dust or moisture getting into either the lens or the camera body changing in and out of these between these two lenses. So that can just quite happily sit in my top pocket, okay, and I don't even need the kit bag. Okay, so an amazing lens, definitely worthy of having as a combination. And for astrophotography, again, with good coordinate sharpness, I consider getting the Olympus 8mm f1.8 Pro lens. That's absolutely fantastic for doing some astrophotography shots and other low light situations where you need that super wide angle. And if you're really serious about wildlife photography, then get serious, get the 300mm f4 Pro lens. It's fantastic. But you can see what's happening here. Now we're getting into the range of lots of lenses, whereas we're talking about what can I do with just the one lens. So when we're traveling, we just want to again have the one lens that can do everything. Maybe a lens if you've got something specialist in mind on our trip. It depends what kind of trip you're going for. Hello. Okay, so a cat has joined us. We'll see how long he's here for. He's rather hungry. So who needs a super zoom? I think everyone needs a super zoom because amateurs, it's great. You don't have to worry about changing lenses all the time and think, oh, have I got the right lens for this? Have I got the right lens for that? If you just got one, then you can concentrate on less technical aspects of your photography and just move on to more important artistic characteristics like, have I decluttered the shot? Is that a nice composition? Learn about the rule of thirds, the golden ratio, anything you like. There's so much to learn about photography, which isn't technology. But the super zoom, will just keep, if you're just walking around and you go, oh, I'm doing a great landscape. Wait, there's an eagle. Oh, great, I want to get a picture of that. You've got that option. So really good for amateurs. Does a pro need a super zoom? Well, I'd say yes for your days off when you're just so bored of swapping lenses all the time and worried about the perfect shot. It may give you the opportunity, if you go somewhere, to recon a location and go, okay, what focal lengths actually work here without having to change the lenses for each one. Go and recon the location and then you can bring your client back to that location with your pro lenses and do the photo shoot. So it lets you just be free basically of all these restrictions of other lenses by having it all in one, again with those little caveats we talked about earlier. So yeah, okay, I do have a couple of regrets sometimes, very, very few occasions where I'd wished I had another lens with me when I've only taken my super zoom out. One is wildlife and it's just been too far away and I don't have the reach. Okay, so I might have wanted a 300mm Pro or the OM Systems 150 to 400 with the TC 1.5 teleconverter at £7,500 lens. Okay, something like that. Or I'm doing a group or a single portrait and I can't blur the background enough. But that's when normally I would have somewhere in the van, I'd probably have my little 45mm f1.8 there. Okay, so let's talk about how to get the most out of your super zoom. So you've bought a super zoom, it may be from Tamron or Sigma, fitting onto a Nikon camera or a Canon, Sony, whichever brand you've got. But they're basically all very similar. They've got a really long zoom range, but with some restrictions here and there. So how do you get the most out of it? Well, when you're doing portraits and wildlife, what I do is try to put as much distance as I can between me and my subject, which sounds kind of contrary to wildlife photography. But what I mean is to zoom all the way into 130, 150 and then walk back so you've framed your subject correctly. And what this does, as you zoom in, it reduces the depth of field, enabling a greater background blur, bokeh, nice picture. Okay, isolates the subjects and you get a much better image than if you were closer, not zooming in as far. So zoom all the way to the long end and it will just help narrow that depth of field. For telemacro, same kind of thing, but you want to get really down low near your subject so you've got a good distance of background behind it if possible. And again, zoom right in as far as you can to get your details. And a lot of these zooms, when you are wide open, so f4 to f5.6 in this case, they are a little bit soft. So you might want to just step down a couple of notches. So f8 to f10 is normally usually the perfect sharpness for landscapes. But you probably want, if you're just you want that background blur still, just step down one notch. It'll make quite a big difference. So you've seen a few shots as we've been going through this presentation, taken with the super zoom. And now I'm going to show you a few more images from a road trip that we did in India. And this trip was really special for us because it took place just before the COVID lockdown. So we booked it a couple of years in advance, and we went, and basically after we came back, everything locked down. So all I had for this trip, again, was the super zoom and the 45mm f1.8, a couple of batteries and a USB charger, no camera bag, absolute heaven. Perfect travel photography scenario. Loved it. Here we go. So if you'd like to know more about the lenses used and the camera and my trip to India, I did write 2 articles for Olympus a couple of years ago. One about travel portraiture and about using the EM5, now the OM5. And the main points in those articles haven't really changed much, so the travel portraiture tips are still very applicable. So do take a look at the article, links below in the comments, not in the comments, links below in the description. And if you like this video, then please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel as well. I'm trying to get over 1,000 subscribers and thousands of hours of viewing before Christmas, because then YouTube might start giving me a little bit of money, possibly. Something like 5p an advert if you watch one or something like that. There's also a link below if you really liked the video to buy me a coffee. I would love a coffee. That would be fantastic. And I will use it to buy coffee as well. So thank you very much for watching, and subscribe, and yeah, we'll be doing loads more lens reviews and camera reviews, tips on photography, adventure videos, lots of fun stuff. So hope to see you soon. See you later.